Enchantress, and you have Enchantress's Presence. And outside of that, not a lot going on. Now, the deck has become slightly more redundant with Green Sun Zenith that you're seeing Scott here cast in the first turn. That allows him to go and find Argothian Enchantress among other creatures.
Now, how does Scott win the game, of course? I'm sure that's the question that you're wondering, outside of kind of getting these card drawing engines online and putting together kind of a soft or relatively hard lock with Solitary Confinement. He does have a Sigil of the Empty Throne that'll make Angels. He also has a Helm of Obedience here. So now I'm looking for Rest in Peace. There are 2 of those and then 1 Helm of Obedience. So he does have ways to win. It does take a little while.
Number 1 players.
Gataxian Probe is going to show Scott's hand here.
And we can see that this man is an enthusiast of Enchantress here with his Beta Savannah.
Along with the Solitary Confinement and Enchantress Presence, a Rest in Peace and an Exploration.
Now, there are a percentage of decks in Legacy, Burn among them, where Solitary Confinement plus some card drawing is just a lock. So you can win some games without even really having to go off. Just 1 Enchantress's effect plus Solitary Confinement kind of gets the job done. But those are not common matchups. For the most part, you need to get a couple Enchantresses effects in play and then kind of get the ball rolling from there.
See what Dan has to follow up with here, now that he does have the information on what's in Scott's hand. Scott waiting patiently. Dan with just a Flooded Strand before passing the turn back over to Blumenthal. Sterling Grove was the draw. I will have my Enchantress knowledge tested right now.
Oh, yeah.
I look forward to this, however. There's an Enchantress's Presence. That one's worth countering, by the way.
You need to fight over this.
Yeah. That's the engine card. Makes the whole deck go. Let's see if Dan does have a counter. It looks like he has Daze.
Scott doesn't have a ton going on in this hand otherwise. He does have a Sterling Grove, which allows him to try again somewhere down the line, but the rest of his hand really isn't doing anything.
Dan going to sacrifice that Flooded Strand.
I really like the incorporation of Green Sun Zenith into this list.
I like it too. A little bit of acceleration when you find Dryad Arbor, but also a redundant way to find Argothian Enchantress, which of course gets things going. I know that speaking with Joe Lissette, when we were talking about Council's Judgment, how it kills True Nemesis, he said, I don't even care about that. I get to kill Argothian Enchantress finally. So they finally gave me a way to do that. Now there is a Lightning Bolt to take care of that, so a really good turn there by Dan. Saw him float a red, cast a Daze, take care of the Enchantress Presence, and then bolt the Dryad Arbor. Gataxian Probe here. We'll find the new card, which again was Sterling Grove. So you mentioned that Scott doesn't really have much going on if that Presence didn't resolve, and that's certainly the case.
Dan's entire mission in this matchup just has to be preventing Scott from ever getting anything going. Once Scott gets an Enchantress effect in play, Dan's really under the gun to try to win quickly. But this sort of stuff, these Wastelands you see, the mana disruption, the counter spells, that's what Scott has to slog through.
Yeah, that's what Dan was actually trying to do, slow down his mana quite a bit. Scott's going to go search up a basic Plains. We'll see what his turn 2 play is going to be. Well, there's 2 mana play. It looks like it's going to be Rest in Peace. He will present the deck over to Dan, and there is the Rest in Peace. Now, that card, oddly enough, not that great against Blue, White, Red Delver.
It's possible that Scott's under the impression that Dan is playing Rug Delver. I was going to say that seemed like a good spot to try to land Sterling Grove, but if Scott assumes he's playing Rug Delver, then that's a good spot to stick Rest in Peace.
And Dan not too sure what Sterling Grove does. You can kind of see his hands waving in the air. All other enchantments you control can't be the target of spells or abilities. That means you can target Sterling Grove. And of course, Sterling Grove can have an Enlightened Tutor-esque effect. You can search for artifacts, but only enchantments. Put it on top of the deck.
I think Sterling Grove, I think this is a foil Chinese one.
This to be the case. He's an Enchantress enthusiast.
I can understand not exactly knowing what's going on there.
Dan going to cast a Brainstorm here, either in response or at the end of turn. Very quickly going to put some cards back. Sterling Grove looks to be A-OK. Now it's time for a Stoneforge Mystic. I must say, Dan has a very good-looking deck.
He said that he's borrowing this from a friend, so he is very nervous carrying this around with him.
Don't let that go anywhere. Green Sun Zenith to draw here for Scott. 1 mana short from being able to find an Argothian Enchantress. There's Utopia Sprawl. That one is quite good.
And you can see Scott here not playing the Exploration. The reason for that, of course, once he gets an Enchantress effect into play, he wants to have as much cheap enchantments in his hand as possible to start getting the ball rolling.
do see the sprawl when it comes into play. Choose a color. We will get confirmation on what the color is being named with the sprawl. You can only enchant a forest. To enchant forest is tapped for mana. The controller adds 1 mana to the chosen color. And he did choose green. As Jordan just plays a Scalding Tarn, passes the turn back with the intentions of putting Batterskull into play. This is a green Sun Zenith for 2. We'll see if this will resolve. Jordan does not look to be okay with that. Spell Pierce will take care of the Zenith. I'll sacrifice a Scalding Tarn very quickly, go search up a land. I have to imagine it will be a Tundra to activate the old Stoneforge Mystic.
Dan doing a very good job keeping Scott off of his action here.
Yeah.
But he's still only, he still has the ability next turn to Sterling Grove, go get and Enchantress's Presence, start to get something going here. That plan folds to another piece of permission if Dan's able to find it, but he's not quite done for yet.
And for 5 we go. Blumenthal's going to go down to 13. Jordan will go up to 18 from the lifelink on the old Batterskull. And Scott's going to take a draw here. That's a forest. So I believe we may see... It depends on what enchantment he wants to play this turn, if he wants to play one at all. Does have a suppression field in hand. There's solitary confinement and an exploration. One of the problems with this deck sometimes is that he does have a lot of 1s and 2s as far as enchantments are concerned. Sometimes you draw the wrong ones at the wrong times or in the wrong matchups.
Yeah, a lot of bullets. And usually it's not that huge of a cost to have them in your deck because once you have your Enchantress effects online, it doesn't really matter what you're drawing, you're just burning through your deck. But in games like this where Dan's presenting a lot of disruption and preventing Scott from getting those into play, the dead draws are magnified.
5 more. Jordan will go up to 22. Blumenthal's down to 8. There's a Wasteland. Scott's going to sacrifice Sterling Grove now and go searching. We'll see what he wants to go find. I wouldn't be surprised if this is Enchantress's Presence. It looks like what he wants to get. There's also the possibility of maybe a card like Elephant Grass right now.
I just don't know what the long-term plan is here. The problem, I understand some reservation about getting Enchantress's Presence because not only do you die to a counterspell now, you're also going to die to Lightning Bolt. Assuming that you spend your turn, you cast Enchantress's Presence, Dan attacks you for 5, and then bolts you. So this strategy loses to a lot of things that Dan could have access to. I don't really know what else Scott is supposed to do.
So the Presence will go top of the deck. That'll be Blumenthal's draw. And you have to imagine that's where he's going to lead off. So here's an attempt. Jordan, yep, Spell Pierce is a nice clean answer to that. So there that goes. Now all Blumenthal can do is pass a turn back. Jordan will quickly draw a card. This is an attack for 5. Blumenthal's down to 3. Do we have a Lightning Bolt? He does not. Just going to pass a turn back. Blumenthal picks up a Windswept Heath. We'll play the Heath. Sacrifice that, go down to 2. And this could be the solitary confinement tick-tock, tick-tock.
Well, that's a dead end.
It certainly is. It certainly is. No argument here.
That whole skip your draw step thing means...
Makes it a bit of an issue.
If you don't have the help now, it's not coming.
No. The old bubble.
This card has killed me, I don't even know how many times. In terms of fringe cards that have defeated me several times, this is very high on the list.
There's the bubble. Force of Will from Jordan going to remove Delver's Secrets, and Blumenthal is going to pick it up very quickly. Dan Jordan wins game number 1 here over Scott Blumenthal. Blue at Red Delver up a game over Enchantress as Jordan was able to really stop Scott from ever getting started.
That's the rug or any sort of Delver deck plan really is just get something out into play and keep the other person from ever getting any sort of momentum. Scott's deck needs some moving parts to line up the right way, and the Spell Pierces and Force of Wills prevented that from ever being a factor.
Now, Scott's sideboard might, like most Legacy sideboards, a lot of 2s and 1s. There's 2 Choke, 2 Stony Silence, 2 Swords of Plowshares, a Humility, a Replenish, a Ruined Halo, an Oblivion Ring, a Sylvan Library, and a Lightened Tutor, an Aura of Silence, a Gaddock Teague, and a Blood Moon. So a lot of nice options here.
Yeah, I think that you're going to see the Blood Moon come in almost certainly. I think the Replenish is well suited for this matchup too. Dan plays a lot of counter spells. Replenish seems like a powerful one-up to have access to. I think you're gonna see the 2 Chokes come in as well. That's another thing that can catch Dan off guard. So a lot of powerful anti-mana cards he has access to. Blood Moon being a lot more effective than Choke. Days can play around it, and Dan can also just make land drops. But I think you're going to see some of those cards come in.
On Dan's side, we see 2 Flusterstorm, 2 Grim Lavamancer, and a bunch of 1s in Wear and Tear, Swords of Plowshare, Sword of Feast and Famine, a Pyroblast for Elemental Blast, and 2 Rest in Peace, and 4 Meddling Mage. I actually like the idea behind Meddling Mage a lot right now in this matchup.
It's tough because, you know, there's going to be some spots where once Scott gets an Enchantress effect into play, there's not a lot that Meddling Mage can do, but it can preempt those kind of cards, Enchantress's Presence, Argothian Enchantress, and that's very powerful. The Wear Tear is good in this matchup as well. Just more enchant removal, of course, helpful here.
I think that overall this matchup is probably favorable for Dan, you think?
Well, it's going to be, I don't know in terms of percentages. I believe that most of the games will be lopsided because Dan's deck doesn't kill that quickly. If Scott gets an Enchantress effect into play, Dan will probably not be able to keep up. And if Scott can't get something into play, then Dan's going to have no trouble winning with whatever. So I think the games are going to be determined a lot by what happens in the first 2 or 3 turns.
This is a Legacy Open after all, so that means we should probably have a little conversation about our good buddy, Mr. Chubby Cheeks.
Mm-hmm.
Your friend and mine, Acorn Mystic.
There he is.
He's just a bundle of joy.
Yep, this is part of our Creature Collection series, and you get 2 of these tokens every time you sign up for a Legacy Open, and you see there's other various effects you can purchase as well, sleeves, playmats, dice bags, deck boxes, the whole shebang.
2 Acorn Mystic tokens every time you do join a Legacy Open Series event. Began in June 13th at our invitational weekend during Season 2, and every player who has joined, all 291, got 2 of these bad boys.
Yeah.
That's pretty sweet. Big fan of the old Acorn Mystic.
Yeah, I mean, all the Animal series stuff is very cool, I think. He's adorable, he or she. It's a pretty gender-neutral chipmunk or squirrel, so.
Well, it's definitely a squirrel.
Yeah.
It's not a chipmunk.
Dude, I'm no biologist. I'm here to cover matches of Magic. If you're asking me to identify various flora and fauna, I can't do it.
Well, it is the Squirrel series, so it's probably a squirrel.
It's reasonable. There are hints, now that you mention it. There are some hints embedded in the
Maybe a
advertisement.
few giveaways, perhaps?
Yeah.
Do you think that chipmunks are popular among the Magic community?
Back to the match.
Oh, you don't want to talk about this anymore.
Take us back to the match.
You don't want to talk about this anymore, I see. I understand. Perhaps we should change the subject.
Mm-hmm. We're not here to assign blame, but
we never are. We never are. Blue Red Delver still does seem like a pretty potent weapon in Legacy. It's not really going anywhere. I still question what the best Delver deck is, and that's to say that there is a best one. They're all quite good, obviously.
for my money, the best build is Rug. I think that's the one with the most solid combo matchup and does the most. It feels like the best Days Wasteland shell the format has to offer, but they all have their incentives. Certainly, Abrupt Decay is a charming card to have access to. Stoneforge Mystic as well, so they all have their incentives. That you make some trade-offs in various matchups depending on how you build it. If I was forced to play a Delver deck, I would play Rug.
So now what I'm doing is I'm inquiring about what a chipmunk is, because now I'm thinking of, like, I believe it's a television show, it was a cartoon when I was a kid.
It's
So-
really hard to tell the difference between a chipmunk and a squirrel. If I showed you a lineup of 10 animals, 5 chipmunks and
What,
5 squirrels,
are they all in jail? Or?
I do not think that you would bet 100% on which is which.
I think that you're right, but that's beside the point. If you showed me 10 Acorn Mystics, I think I would get it correct. That they
Sure.
are all squirrels. I think I would get that one correct. A Green Sun Zenith, they start very much like we saw last time. Time to search for a Dryad Arbor yet again. I'll tell you what, though, chipmunks are adorable.
They are.
I can promise you that much. They're very small. They look to have some stripes on them, and they are totes adorbs.
So very similar to squirrels. That's kind of the point you're making here.
That's not what I said. I don't want there to be any confusion about what I said. Delver Secrets to begin things here for Jordan, and a Courser of Crewfix.
Hello.
Absolutely. That is an enchantment, after all. There's a very real chance that Dan has not seen this card before, actually, since he hasn't been playing Magic as much as he used to.
I was going to say, when we saw that on the deck list, I was thinking, what's going on with this thing? But yeah,
It's a nice one-of.
it's a nice one of
We saw Jerry Thompson play this at the Invitational. It's going to get dazed. Dan thinking this is a little too dangerous. I'm not quite sure what this can do. Does not flip his Delver.
Well, it can't be bolted. It would be a stretch if Dan still had plows in his deck, so who wants to play against that thing?
It's a good test spell.
Yeah, test the waters with that.
Let's go tapping for some mana here, Scott. Let's see what we got. A Sterling Grove to protect the enchantment.
Sterling Grove plus Courser Grufix?
Yeah, that's game.
Oh my goodness.
You think they thought about that when they were designing Theros?
Oh, probably not.
That must have
that must have just slipped through.
Now Dryad Arbor feeling a little frisky, coming in for a 1. Here's a brainstorming turn from Jordan. Wants to set up the Delver.
Stoneforge in hand as well, so a lot of things he's setting up here.
The big thing here, and you mentioned it during sideboard, is can Scott get anything going? This has been a real issue so far in the first game and, you know, a couple turns into the second. Is can he get one of these card drawing engines online? Because if he gets it in, it's very hard for Dan to get off the table, especially Argothian Enchantress.
Dan's just presented a lot of disruption. You can look at his hand right now, multiple copies of Force of Will, Spell Pierce. It's going to be hard again for Scott to get something significant into play. And the leftovers in his hand is not very good. I mean, I imagine Scott's going to have to break this Sterling Grove and look for something, you know, an Enchantress's presence, something to get something going. And if that gets met by Force of Will, he's relying on his draw steps to find a piece of action, and he will not have that many draw steps to find it.
Magic players, this is a last call for registration for
DJ
the
taking
standard
a few
open
moments here
trial. This is the last
before
call.
resolving the brainstorm. Basically, this sculpts the way the rest of the game is going to go.
Yeah.
So he wants to make sure he does not get this incorrect.
He's going to be shuffling his deck next turn. There's a decision of what he wants to reveal to Scott.
All right, so Delver's flipping, of course. There's a Spell Pierce. It would be embarrassing if it didn't flip. So there's that. There's a Tundra. In for 3 we go. And he might just play another Delver. Yep, he's going to go real beatdowns here.
That must mean he thinks his hand is excellent here if he
His
does
hand
not
is
one.
pretty good.
Yeah.
He's got a Pierce. He's got a Force. Scott's going to sacrifice Sterling Grove and go put something on top of his deck. It's a copy of Enchantress's Presence. And this is just something he has to keep doing.
Yep. I would assume now that Scott, having seen Spell Pierce, has a 5th mana to try to play Enchantress's Presence with protection against Spell Pierce, but we know that Dan has that covered with the Force of Will.
So the Presence is the draw. There is the land. It's a Taiga. And so now this will be an attempt at the Presence. Will this resolve? And it looks like the answer is resounding no. Force of Will, moving Meddling Mage is what Jordan will do. Scott's hand right now is a Solitary Confinement and a Mystery green card. I believe the green card is a Utopia Sprawl.
Yeah, not a lot going on. Although, again, this becomes a lot in the event that he's able to find any sort of Enchantress effect.
Jordan going to untap. You have to imagine this Delver's going to flip. There's a Force of Will. And we already know about the Spell Pierce, Dan. So the next spell that Scott casts that Dan deems relevant will get countered. In for 6. Blumenthal's down to 9. Jordan has a Stoneforge Mystic. We'll see what that does search up. And I believe Dan's last 2 cards are the Force of Will and the Spell Pierce.
Yeah, this is going to be a tough draw for Scott to handle.
Tough draw for anyone to handle. Gonna get Sword of Feast and Famine. Blumenthal gonna untap. We know he's got a Solitary Confinement. His draw was a Caracas. I don't know if there's any getting out of this one for Scott. These 2 games have been quite one-sided.
Well, Dan's draws have had it all. And Scott has just never been able to get an Enchantress into play.
Into the bubble.
Judge Gill.
Let's see if Dan Force wills this.
Please.
Now, how long can Scott realistically hold on with this? He's got 1 card in his hand. Dan can just say, that's cool.
Yeah, I mean, you just get to play the game. It's basically like Scott takes 2 draw steps off, or draw step off. Nothing's happening. And in fact, this ensures that Dan has a kill next turn.
Yep. So the bubble is a momentary reprieve. Enchantress's Presence, or actually it was Argothian Enchantress, was the draw.
Naturally.
Yeah. Little late, my friend, little late. Scott will deploy it. We'll see if Dan lets it resolve or not. Sword will come in. Quick untap, quick draw. Dan can put this one. Dan can actually put this. He's going to cast a probe. See Caracas. And you put this onto the Stone Forge. And that's going to do it. Dan Jordan's going to win this match over Scott Blumenthal. 2-0. Blue Red Delver taking down Enchantress, and DJ moves on to 5-0.